Good morning. Welcome to the 7th Annual Oswego County Substance Awareness Family Education State Fair. I'm Teresa Wilson, President and founder of the Val Foundation, and your host and facilitator for the State Fair. Our first presentation is titled Wellness During Quarantine with Katie Raflowski. Katie is a licensed mental health counselor through the state of New York and a child-centered play therapist through the National Institute of Relationship Enhancement. She is employed at Integrative Counseling Services, a private practice in Oswego, New York, and has worked there for the last 6 years. She works with all age populations, but specializes in play therapy. Her clinical interests include play therapy, integrated health care, and working from a wellness model. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, thank you so much.
I'm going to mute myself now.
All right, perfect. So hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Just like Teresa said, I'm going to be talking about wellness during quarantine and just a little bit about why that is the title I'm working from is because right now, a lot of us are working from places and in ways that we haven't had to do before. There's a lot of isolation, a lot of changes, and it's important to learn how to take care of ourselves during this time. And why I talk about wellness versus trying to stay positive or stay happy is that's exhausting to do, to just try to stay positive or happy all the time. And we don't really look at that for wellness. If you're pushing those things aside, eventually they're going to come up, and those things that you're trying to ignore, trying to push past, are going to affect you at some point. So what I like to focus on is wellness. And wellness is basically a holistic approach to taking care of ourselves. So we look at mind, body, and spirit, or soul, depending on what you want to call it. So mind, body, spirit is what I look at for wellness and taking care of each of those factors. So to start that off, I'm just going to lead us through an exercise that you can use, just like a little life hack. You can use it daily whenever you think about it. Or if you're feeling really unsettled and you're not really sure what's going on with you, this would be a great time to use this activity I'm going to do with you. So I know I can't really see anybody here, so I'm just going to hope you're going to do this along with me. And you don't have to, but again, it's helpful to do it. So if you just want to get in a comfortable spot, I like to sit back, kind of square off my shoulders, have my feet planted on the ground, just get really comfortable. And I'm just going to lead us in an exercise that I like to call a body scan. So we're just going to check in with each part of our bodies. Okay, so I like to start with some deep breaths. So deep breaths, how I lead kids in this usually, and adults, because sometimes we forget how to breathe. Is just put your hands on your stomach to make sure that you're breathing deeply. So we're just going to take some deep breaths together. And I like to take about 3 deep breaths. And then personally, I like to go from my feet to my head, because I notice for me in my body scan, by the time I get to my head, things might be more complicated for me to deal with. So I like to start where it's just easier for me. And if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, I'm going to encourage you to write down the different things that you're going to notice in this body scan, because what we're going to do is we're going to take note, we're going to notice those things, we're going to write them down, and then we're going to deal with them after. Okay, so we took our deep breaths, we're in our comfortable spot. So we're just gonna slowly go from foot to head, and we're just gonna check in. Like, what do your feet feel like? Are you planted on the ground? Are you sitting comfortably? I'm gonna just check in with my legs, notice this, or if there's anything different, anything achy, if I'm sitting weird. I'm gonna notice my posture. Am I straight? Am I slumped over? Is there any aches in my spine? And as we're noticing these different things, like I said, just jot them down. Next, I'm We're going to go to our stomachs. Are we feeling okay today? Anything queasy, nervous feeling? Anything just off? Are we hungry? Do we drink enough water yet? Just going to notice that. Going to notice if anything else feels weird in my body, my arms. How are my hands feeling? Just kind of a quick scan of everything. Next, we're going to go to our shoulders. Is there any tightness there? Any ways that we're sitting, or maybe our tension's being held there? We're going to notice that. We're going to go to our hearts next, mind, body, soul. So I want you to just check in. How are you feeling? Are you feeling happy, sad, scared, lonely, nervous? Anything like that you're feeling? And then jot it down. We're going to go to the next thing. How are our throats feeling? Are they sore? Have we been talking a lot, not talking enough? Any weird neck tension? Next, we're going to go to our heads. Any headaches? Any tension we're holding? Do our heads feel heavy? Are we tired? And then we're going to look inward. Are our thoughts racing? Is there things that we're just thinking about that's hard to even dismiss at this moment? Something that's been in our brain a lot lately. And then to come out of this, we're going to just take another 3 deep breaths together. Okay, so for some of you that might have felt really awkward, but I hope that everyone was able to participate or just notice something that might be different. I don't know if anybody wants to put in the chat anything that they noticed that might have felt off in their body that they didn't realize before, or in their mind or spirit as we were checking in with ourselves. And why this is helpful is a lot of times our bodies are just really good at plowing through and surviving. So we're really good at ignoring emotions, ignoring physical sensations that are bothering us, ignoring thoughts that are weighing on us, and we're really good at just getting through to what we need to do, but those things build up. So they create health problems, they create mental health issues, they create all sorts of things, emotional struggles like feeling lonely, and you might not have even realized it till a lot farther down the road. So when we do these body scans, and if you make a point of doing these regularly, it just helps us get in the mindset of checking in with us, because then when we find those areas that are out of balance, dysregulated, in need of attention, then we can pay attention and take care of those needs as they pop up. So that's a great practice. I just kind of wanted to introduce our segment with that this is something that you can use at home as many times as you want. Bring your kids into it, your family into it, and keep up with those body scans and just check in with each area. So if you did notice something, I encourage you to make sure you meet the needs of your body. Like right now, I can tell that I haven't drank enough water today, and I bet a lot of us here haven't, because a lot of us humans are bad at drinking water as much as we need to. Our bodies need a ton of water. So that's something I'll make sure I do. And I have some tension there, so I'll make sure I also work out some of those tension areas that I might not have realized before. So I hope that you're all able to do that. Like I said, feel free to use the chat if you want. And something else I like to talk about when we're speaking about wellness, some of you might have heard about this before if you've taken a psychology class or have some type of psych background. But especially in this time of quarantine, what I like to look at is Maslow's pyramid of a hierarchy of needs. So the hierarchy of needs is basically the different things we need to function, and we need each different level before we can advance to the next level. And if one of those falls out of balance, where we need to address that level before we can move forward. And I know a lot of us during this time, during COVID-19, some of those structures in our pyramid might have fallen out of balance, might be crumbling right now. And if we don't go back and figure out which thing we need to address for that hierarchy of needs, we can't move on to the next spot. And there's no shame in that. A lot of times we compare ourselves and say, this person's at the top of the pyramid and I'm all the way down here. Or, I was at the top and now I'm down here. And those types of thoughts can really, well, dysregulate and hurt us and keep us at a level where we get stuck. So what those different needs are is at the bottom of our pyramid, we have our physiological needs, and this is just our basic needs. So food, shelter, water, the basic things we need. And next we have safety. That is our ability to have money, a job, feeling secure in our homes, where we're at. So just that basic need of safety. The next level is love and belonging. This is our support system. So the people around us that are our friends or our family, a place where we really feel accepted and that we're part of the community. That is so important. And I would even say that this structure in the pyramid is very much at risk right now with the isolation that so many people feel during this time. So that is a definite note that we all need that. The next level is esteem. That's who you are and where you belong, how you think of yourself in regard to your community, in regard to your circle. That's how you feel. And that's after you have that support system. And then the top of the tier, which we all want, is our self-actualization. And that's where we are content with ourselves, we're creative, we're able to give back, able to relax. So those are all the different sections of the pyramid. And like I said, if you don't have your physiological needs met, then you're not going to be able to feel safe. You're not going to be able to have a support system, to have that sense of self, to get to that place where you're ready to give back. And there's no shame with that, but it's just recognizing where we are at for our needs to be met. And especially during wellness, during quarantine, we need to look at those different factors and the different things we need. So I'd encourage you to kind of look out at your pyramid and be like, what different structures am I missing right now? Is that why I feel really wobbly? I feel out of place. Everything feels like a mess right now. That creates a lot of dysregulation when those are off balance or when you're missing a tier of that. And then if you notice that need needs to be met. So where we all want to be at the top, the self-actualization, we need to be okay with ourselves and accept where we're at the tier. Maybe I need food, shelter, and water right now. Maybe with everything going on, that's been really hard and I don't have those things. Maybe I have lost my support system in the time of quarantine and the time of isolation, that I don't really have that group of people to talk to like I normally would. So that would be a time to analyze that, look at what's missing, and figure out how to rebuild that tier. So whether it's maybe reaching out to some family, some friends, and setting up Zoom meetings, whatever anyone's situation is, and setting those up maybe once a week. You have a game night on Zoom, or making sure your family is having regular game nights together. Maybe you have a close friend that you can both be really safe with. Maybe you make a point of reconnecting with that person. So it's really important, especially now, to be able to have that wellness structure, to be paying attention to each of our needs. I know a lot of us just want things to get better, things to feel positive, to feel happy. But again, we're coming from a wellness perspective. So a wellness perspective takes care of our needs as they arise, to take care of all of our whole selves, mind, body, spirit. I hope that made sense to everybody. So I want to talk about some things that can create dysregulation, especially during this time. And if you might not have those support systems, or even if you have everything met on your pyramid, these things can cause dysregulation. So I know a lot of you have probably heard this already, but social media can be a huge form of dysregulation. Just gonna admit someone. Dysregulation. So that is where a lot of times news sources actually have psychologists that study how the mind interacts with emotions, and they actually will release news articles that make you upset or make you mad to get people to click on them. So social media actually plays with our psyche a lot by trying to dysregulate us into giving them more numbers, more hits on their site. and then that makes you mad, that makes you express yourself more. And a lot of times, you know, sad media or tragic media gets more attention, gets more numbers than happy sources of media. So it really does play with our minds a lot and create dysregulation. Something else that happens is there's this thing in our brain, a neurotransmitter called dopamine. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that before. But what happens is when we're getting a lot of those social media likes, people following us, text messages, what happens is it produces this reward system in our brain where our dopamine levels actually get activated so that we come to depend on those likes. So you might think, well, is that a bad thing? I'm getting some extra dopamine levels because of these likes, that's fine. But let's say those likes aren't coming anymore and your brain is wired to get those, the hits is probably the best way to describe it, to have those hits of dopamine. When you get those likes and when you're not getting those, you start feeling depressed, you start feeling down because your brain starts to become wired on that reward system. So that's just like a little tip where social media can actually act as a huge dysregulation. Am I saying that's a bad thing? No, especially in isolation. That's how a lot of us are feeling connected to each other. But that is something that needs to be done in moderation and maybe incorporate some of those body scans. How did you feel before you went on social media that day? How do you feel now? And then meeting the needs of your body, making sure you're looking for regulation. Something also, comparing ourselves produces a feeling of shame sometimes when you see someone or discontent when you see someone that seems to be doing well because everyone posts their best on social media and maybe you're not doing so well. So that really can lead to you feeling more depression, more anxiety during this time. Shame actually is an emotion that the more you feel it, the more it leads to depression, anxiety, and even health issues as time goes on. So shame can be super damaging for us. And sometimes shame is confused with guilt. Guilt is how we feel about like an interpersonal situation. So maybe you did something and you felt bad about it, and that's you're feeling bad about that situation. Shame is when it turns into your internal state, how you're feeling inside. It's actually you regretting some aspect of yourself. And that's why shame is so damaging, because you're looking at yourself, you're talking to yourself in a really negative mindset. So shame produces an internal state of inadequacy, unworthiness, regret, and it creates disconnection. And during this time, disconnection is super damaging for maintaining that wellness. Like what we talked about on the pyramid, we need to keep connected with one another for that sense of love and belonging and that support. So anything that's going to create disconnection is going to be extra harmful for us during this time. So shame makes us turn our focus inward, and it's often negative. It also disables and makes us not motivated. So then it's hard to even do things. So shame really isn't very helpful. So that's just something to keep in mindful of. It's important for us to see how we're talking to ourselves, how we're talking to each other. And a lot of us are in homes with family, with friends, whoever you live with, and we're around each other a lot nowadays. I'm sure you can all relate to that. And shame is actually very contagious. So if you're struggling with talking really negatively, feeling really negatively about yourself, that is actually a contagious feeling that can go to the other people around you, and then they can start feeling more shame, start having more of those negative thoughts. Now, some of you might be like, oh no, I'm the worst parent, I'm the worst partner ever now because I've been having these negative thoughts and now they're gonna have those negative thoughts. I'm gonna stop you. That's your shame talking. And we can all move forward in this mindset of how to take care of ourselves, how to check in with those thoughts that are hurting ourselves. And by doing those body scans, by doing deep breathing, by doing activities that help us feel good, we can produce that regulation, which helps combat those shame feelings. So it's just for those of you that might be feeling hopeless or really down when you hear that. So shame, not helpful during this time. So natural ways for us to increase dopamine, and another neurotransmitter is serotonin. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about that. Serotonin is when you don't have enough serotonin is when you start feeling really depressed. So dopamine helps you feel happy. Serotonin makes you also feel happy in a different way. So natural ways to get this are sleeping enough. Sleeping is so important to us. And as a side note, these are actually like blue light blockers. That's one of my things when I was doing a body scan. I noticed a while ago where my eyes were hurting so much. I was having headaches. I was having trouble sleeping. So this is something I did for wellness during this time to take care of myself, is buying blue light blockers, because the harmful light from being on technology all the time really impacts our mental processes, our physical state. So anything we can do to help ourselves take care of ourselves, mind, body, spirit, is going to be helpful during this time. So sleeping enough, that's going to help with your dopamine levels, your serotonin levels. Exercising, so important. And I know some of you probably hear these things and you're like, yeah, I know, eat healthy, exercise. But it's true. And how I look at it is, it's not about needing, like, I need to do this 20 minutes every single day. If you exercise for 5 minutes a day and that's all you can do that day, that's okay, because we're not operating from a shame perspective, we're operating from a wellness perspective. So what you can do today, now, to take care of yourself is what we're going to accept and build off of. So exercise is going to help raise those levels. If you're feeling really depressed, feeling really down, it'd be great to go outside, take a walk, do I don't know, some squats in your living room, just dance on whatever. If you have a game system, there's lots of opportunities for different exercise that works for you. And like I said, it's all about taking care of ourselves instead of trying to meet a specific plan. So nature, being around green things like trees, grass, helps us get that regulation, helps increase our dopamine levels. Taking lots of breaks. Eating dark chocolate actually increases your dopamine levels also. So that's a plus for the dark chocolate lovers in the room. Almonds is something that helps. Walnuts increases your dopamine levels. So that's just a number of things that can help you when you're seeking to feel better, seeking some type of relief. Those are going to be helpful versus those negative ways that we talked about. So that's like, if you're feeling down, grab a handful of walnuts, take a walk, stare at some trees. Those things are going to raise those dopamine, serotonin levels, and it's going to help you feel more regulated and more, well, content with yourself. And like I said, we do look at wellness from mind, body, soul. So making sure each aspect of those are met. So for soul or spirit, that might depend on your faith system. So following what you need and making sure you're not missing that component, because we need all three of those to help with our overall wellness. And anything you can do to interconnect those three for mind, body, spirit is going to be most helpful for you. Those interconnections are just going to increase that regulation within your body, and it's going to help us all get through this time when we're increasing ways for regulation. And then just some quick tricks for working at home during this time, especially if you have kids, making sure you take lots of breaks, standing up, walking around, jumping up and down. I don't know if you guys know those resistance bands that people use for exercise. I recommend putting those on the bottom of your chair to just kind of kick with your legs to get you that movement, to again interconnect that mind and body portion. Having fidgets at your desk. I always have a number of these that I use. I recommend that for everyone that's on a computer, on a screen all the time. You need to have ways to keep your body present and connected to yourself, and keep, like I said, that mind-body connection going. It's also very important to work in a different place than you sleep in, because otherwise your brain starts to get wired that this is where I work and not where I sleep. And then you start having those sleep problems. And like we talked about earlier, when you're not sleeping enough, those dopamine levels start decreasing on you. And then drinking enough water, I said that earlier, is absolutely key and so important. Our bodies are mainly made up of water, so we really do need to keep them hydrated. I bet a lot of you need a glass of water right now. So I'd encourage you to get up, grab a glass of water, make sure you're drinking throughout the day. That's going to just help that regulation. So again, just to reiterate, overall, being kind to ourselves, being kind to others, focusing in on our needs and not feeling that shame that you're not somewhere where you're just not. And that's okay. Like, we need those different tiers of our pyramids before we can move forward. And if we don't have those, that's just where we're at right now, especially during this time when some people have lost jobs. You might not have an ability to get food like you used to, then we're right there at that tier, and that needs to be met before anything else. Same if you don't really have that support system. So I encourage you to reach out, make sure you're trying to build that support system. So one step at a time. Again, use those body scans to check in with your body, mind, spirit, see where you're at, see what's dysregulated, what needs some help to be able to meet those needs. So that is what I just wanted to share with you guys today for wellness during quarantine. I hope it was helpful. We have a few minutes if anybody has any questions they want to ask. You can use the chat or pop in on your microphone, whatever works for you. So any questions, anybody?
Oh, thank you so much, Katie. That was
problem.
awesome. That was a wonderful amount of information. Wow, I can't wait to go back and watch it again. Thank you so much, and your things, your your suggestions were really, really needed at this time. Thank you. Thanks again.
Not a problem. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day for presentations.